while I'm sad. You've been out all night, know you've been bad. Don't tell me different, know it's a lie. Come to me, honey, see how I cry.
Welcome to the Recovery Show with Bernie Z. That's me. Today I'd like to talk to you about Step 5, admitting to ourselves and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. For an addict to admit anything is real hard. In the beginning, we've been so long in our denial. But when we get to that point where we have to really look at ourselves, that ties into that admitting we have a problem. And it ties into the needing help from a power greater than ourselves and the decision to turn it over to that. And when we get to the point where we've faced it, done all that stuff, and we've started that process of making that inventory, we begin to look at it and say, okay, yes, I am a person with problems. Yes, I have these things that are going on in my life, these issues that caused me to do some things, and these are the things I did wrong. And you try to make some level of understanding of that, not only for yourself but for others. The first one you have to admit it to those yourself. You can't admit something to somebody else that you haven't admitted to yourself. And when you get to the point where you're starting to admit those problems, those wrongs that you've done over the years, such as not being there for your kids or not being there for someone close to you at a key event, or in my case, not having been as available when my mom passed as I was when my dad passed. My mom passed the year that I quit gambling, but it was before I quit. It was like 11 months before I quit that she passed. She passed in January. I quit in November. And with that, there was a lot of things that I just did not do the right thing with. So I ended up having to really look at myself there and say, what did I do wrong? And I admitted to my dad, and we worked through a lot of things, and I created an opportunity to make amends. But that admission of what we've done is big. Now, going along with that is realizing that we can't always admit to everybody because it's harmful to some to do that. They might become angrier than most would. Because the hurt is so deep, and the admitting that those things is something that you have to do very carefully. A lot of times it's within a group of people that are in recovery that you talk about the things that you've done to promote your own continuing in your addiction. It may have ranged anywhere from borrowing money that you couldn't pay back to missing an event for a family member to doing something that actually caused you to have a record of some sort. Now, for me, a lot of mine was not being there for my family. It was avoiding my own anger issues, and avoiding dealing with a tumultuous marriage that on the surface people around me didn't see the problems that were happening at home, because when we're out in public, just like anything, we're one person out in public and we were another couple when we were in private, and it ate things up. And over the years, you have to start working on admitting those wrongs. You have to, as you're starting your recovery, you're going to find more and more things that you realize there's a nature to it that was not right, that it was your issue that you didn't deal with. So when I'm talking about that, I want you to really think about, as it pertains to recovery, exactly what are those wrongs, and what is the nature of them. The nature of them may be something that was out of your control, but the wrongs themselves were in your control, or they may be vice versa. The wrongs were fed by the nature of who you were as an addict. And what I mean by that is that addiction became so much part of who you were, so much part of your nature, that it created an environment that you didn't look at something as wrong until you started your recovery process. For me, there's so many things I could look at and say, I did that wrong. But as an addict, I didn't see it as wrong at the time. So it's a matter of looking at things not only as the nature of your wrongs, but the nature of the addiction that you were in at the time of the wrong, or the addiction that you were heading into at the time of the wrong. And then in recovery, the nature of your recovery, you're going to have moments where you're angry, you're going to have the withdrawal symptoms that others have. It's just going to come out differently. And so at those points, being able to admit the nature of that recovery process that might trigger you to do something that you really shouldn't do or wouldn't do if you were less struggling with your addiction. And that's a lifetime struggle. So there's going to be things that you do over time that are not necessarily the best things, and they may be things that you did wrong, but it was in the nature of it, the nature of the recovery, the nature of the situation you were in. So take a broader look at things and don't always say, well, it wasn't wrong, it just wasn't exactly right. If it wasn't right, it was wrong. If it wasn't wrong, then it was right. And yet, we tend to have those areas of gray, they did this, so it's okay that I did this. And that's not the case. And we have to admit that nature of, because somebody else did something, we need to respond in the way that we did. It's not that way. So with that, I'm going to let everybody go and say stay tuned for the family side of this and the support side of this, which will come soon. Have a good day. Thank you.
While I'm sad, you've been out